Look. All I'm saying is IRS agents have black suits. The men in black clearly are wearing black suits. So tell me why it's implausible that the IRS and the men in black are the same thing and are after Mothman. He's on run from the IRS.
Who the fuck starts a podcast like that?
Unfortunately for you, me, your host, Chandler Allen Berry, and with me is Slug.
So,
What are you drinking?
Fanner and Burnett's vodka.
Ah, I am also drinking Burnett's vodka. Not sponsored, but would love to be sponsored. And
Unless. Not sponsored, unless.
please, a little weak nudge, and a little splash of Coke in there too. I say that like this is an 80% Coke, but you know,
I'm more of the party guy.
clearly
on the podcast.
See, I can't gesticulate while I talk like I normally do because 80% of the stuff on the table is glass. It's all bottles and mason jars. And I don't know what the hell is that, a lantern?
I can get
A solar-powered lantern?
All right, I'm getting it off the table.
Okay, we already got too many things that could break.
Too many cooks.
Spoils the broth. All right, take a seat. We got some matters to discuss. Welcome, everybody, to episode 3. Today, we are going to be talking about our favorite, who would have thunk, favorite movies, monsters, and music. It's almost like that's the entire shtick. Where do you want to start? You want to start?
We'll start with your little course correction.
Oh yeah, I almost forgot. Considering there's only one mistake I made. So, like I said previously, we're not going to do discourse correction every single episode. Only ones where it's particularly bad. I made one mistake that I caught immediately. Now, having listened to the episode, do you know what mistake it was? Because you're a history guy, and I claim to be a history guy, and I made a historical mistake that really bothers me.
I'm not gonna lie, I listened to it on Monday, so I listened to the podcast.
You're like a porn star who doesn't watch their own porn. Anyways,
I'm flattered.
You're welcome. Oh god, we're not even balls deep in the drinks yet. Who knows where this is gonna go? So I claimed, I'm being real. I don't even know what the hell I was talking about. I said 12th century Viking. There's a problem.
Yes.
With that.
Yes. Now that you say it out loud.
Out loud, Vikings were not in the 12th century. The latest, when most of them were converted to Christianity, was the 11th century. So it's not like the worst thing ever.
No.
You know, but it's something, as someone who claims to love history, it bothers me that I said this. And I just want to get that out there. So this isn't a discourse correction. There's not like a lot of stuff to go over, but
it's more of a hiccup.
It was more like I fumbled the ball and got a safety. I didn't even get a first down, bro. So yeah, that's about it. So
I want to lead off in a new segment that we can pick up occasionally, because you know sometimes life gets in the way and we don't really listen to new music or see a new movie. Movies take up time, but I would like to talk about a new band I checked out at work yesterday.
Yeah, plenty of time to check them out.
Yeah, it is called Demise. They are on Instagram. I can pull it up real quick. Demiser, excuse me. Demiser Official. Black thrash from the heart of the Bible Belt. Metal Blade and Blacklight Media Official. And I would say it is quite a breath of fresh air. Breath of fresh air. Excuse me.
Oh, it's hitting you already.
No. I want to say, as people might know from the previous podcasts, I'm a metal guy. I like punk. I talked about reggae and I talked about a little blues and folk, but currently I'm more on the punk and metal stuff, and particularly in metal. Black metal is particularly, I'm going to say it again, particularly my
word
favorite form of metal music, because I have the hot take that how beautifully crafted some black metal songs, where you get into the ambient or the drone or even black depressive suicidal metal, it can be very, very artsy. I would say, in my hot take, that you could compare jazz music to some black metal songs,
Oh,
but
you're so pretentious.
in this particular band, not so much. I mean, they're not artsy. They are. I mean, artsy can be a concept for most people, whether they are or not. What I want to say about them is that they're great. They are phenomenal. Black and thrash metal is probably my favorite sub of black metal. It has the fun chugginess of thrash metal, but you got the very interesting take on the vocals. Where you've got the raspy, you've got the harshness, but he sings a little softer than most of the other black metal artists that I listen to, which is really a breath of fresh air. And you made the comment today that, oh my god, it's so good, I can actually hear what he's saying.
You want to talk about the breath of fresh air? Oh my god!
Yeah,
Enough
but
of pig squealing, man.
yeah, that's my that's what I'm listening. The Miser official on Instagram. Check them out. They have one album out on Spotify. And I'm gonna pivot to you.
Oh, first off, I want to second that because, like a lot of music, Alex over here wants to showcase it to me, and he's like a cat that brings a dead mouse to your front porch, like all excited to show off what it found. So thank you for showing me that band. They are legitimately really good, and it helps that I actually can hear the lyrics and understand them. Big plus for me. Big thumbs up.
I wish I knew the name of the song. Like I said, literally four in the morning at work last this morning. If it's still morning, it would still be morning because tomorrow is in a little under an hour. Um,
Yeah, we record these real late.
yeah.
We're not finished editing till like 4.
As I said, I am primarily a bass player, but I also play a little rhythm guitar. And it's an unpopular opinion, but I'm not big on solos. One of the songs on their first album has a solo where even I, who's a little, I guess you would say, gatekeeper about solos and when they're good,
Yeah,
when
yeah,
they're
I'd say.
yeah.
Who listens to Freebird and is like, oh my god, this solo, it goes on for too long.
But what I'm trying to say, one of their songs, one of their solos, top notch, top notch.
Can you articulate why?
It's fun, and I think that's what solos are supposed to be. Yes, a lot of lead guitar players, it's about showing off to everybody else. Look at me, I'm the best guitar player here. But as somebody who is in a band and had a diva, which doesn't make them a bad person. It's just we know you're the best. That's why you're here. You're playing lead guitar. You know, you're here. We know that you're the best guitar player in the band. So it can be a little pretentious, a little bit sometimes, when they don't want to just have fun with it. And that's why I love Ace Frehley so much with his solos because it's fun. That's why I like Slash because his solos are fun, and that's what I really feel from this Demiser solo. And I'll when we update the page saying that it's posted, I will put it in the notes of which song it is. But yeah, Demiser official on Instagram and Demiser on Spotify. Check them out. I really like them and I highly recommend them.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to word it as good as you did. I'm simply going to say that I said this before about movies, but and podcasts, but I like it to be beat up. I like to have character. When the second you turn something into a science, it's just not enjoyable or fun anymore. The second you add in, yes, you're technically playing it the best possible way you can play it, but that kind of takes away some of the fun from it. And it's just at that point, it's just science. And science sucks, as you know.
I took physics 3 times.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear that. I also want to recommend Symphonic, which we had talked about in the car previously, which is a Hong Kong black metal band. In the front man is a politician who is opposing China right now. Excuse me. Taiwanese.
West Taiwan. I will also say Tumor Boy on Spotify is another Chinese, not so much death metal, but thrash metal. It's another one I checked out. They don't have, as far as I saw, they didn't have an Instagram page, but they might have a Facebook. Interestingly enough, would you watch? Would you watch, Chandler?
Oh, we live together, but we rarely see each other. Our schedules don't really allow us to cross over
I
all the
work
time.
days,
But
he works nights.
yeah, it can be hard to catch up with each other. But recently, we've been on a found footage kick, mostly because we want to make a found footage movie to bridge to our next project, simply to just get a feel for our acting chops and for camera work, to just kind of practice for future endeavors, which are in the works. You'll hear more about that later. So to get ready, this is the great thing about working in movies and in music, is that you get to study movies and music, and it's part of your research.
Yes.
All we can do is sit around and watch movies and listen to music all day, and instead of it being like, you lazy ass, get up and do something, you're like, this is work.
Yes.
We're doing this is all for work.
Oh yeah.
Thank God that that's part of the criteria. And oh boy, did we watch some movies.
We did.
We went through a lot of found footage movies. In fact, had a list. Can you pull that list up that I sent you?
Yes.
Slug here had not listened to, or excuse me, had not seen all these movies. And these are movies I saw, but you haven't, right?
Other than Blair Witch and The Hell House, and House October. Well, no, not Hell House. The House October Built. Those were the two ones that I've seen before.
They're similar enough.
I mean,
they're both set on Halloween or in October and involve haunted houses being the primary focus. It's easy to get those two mixed up.
And The Last Broadcast. Those are the three that I have seen on this list. Before going through this list, we have Lake Mungo. We have The Blair Witch, which I've seen. Yeah. Hell House LLC. The House October Built, which I had seen before. Project X, I did not get to see because I'm cheap and I didn't want to pay for it. The Horror in the High Desert.
Solid.
Quarantine, REC. Not see because I'm cheap. Cloverfield, Savage Land. The Borderlands. As Above, So Below, which I didn't see because I'm cheap. Troll Hunter and The Last Broadcast, which Last Broadcast I have seen. That is the list we went through, and I know Chandler did some extra credit and saw some extra ones, but those are the ones that I watched for today's episode.
Right, and I don't know why I listed it the way I did. I had Lake Mungo at the very top. I'm so sorry. I had it at the top of the list. I want you to talk about it.
Not yet.
Really?
I don't want to talk about it yet. I actually want to hear about the extra credit you did before we get into the list.
Yeah, I saw last night while I just got back from what the hell was I doing yesterday?
Yesterday was Saturday.
I came back home because currently our fact checker Willow is indisposed at the moment, so she can't be here. But I came home last night, hung out with her, and we talked and watched some YouTube videos, and I went to bed probably around 10. I didn't go to sleep till 5 because I'm doing what I call "quote unquote" research.
Yes.
These movies. It's funny because I watched 3, and I can't tell you what the third movie was. Not because I was so tired, but because it is so non-noteworthy that I literally can't even give you a synopsis. So I'm only going to tell you about 2.
Gotcha.
The first one, hold on. Something's coming up from the bowels of hell. There we go. I'm going to expel some demons.
This is what the podcast is for.
Yeah, I saved that burp for this moment. Mm-hmm. Behind the Sightings is a movie about the clown sightings of 2016. The epidemic.
It's dated. We were in high school during this time.
It's so weird how certain movies can be like time capsules of a period. It's like when you think of 2016, I kid you not, there's 2 things I think of. Trump and clowns. And some people might even say those two things are the same thing. I won't. But
this isn't that type of podcast.
No, but it's just interesting. The movies like that can serve as, and I'm not to get too off topic, but like the recent movie Sick, just a classic slasher throwback set during the pandemic and during quarantine. And it's just an encapsulation of the period. It's so cool that like the times we live in can be seen as a historical set piece.
It really was. Honestly.
Yeah, there's a lot of movies, a lot of horror movies set during the quarantine period, but this is the clown epidemic of 2016, which is so... it's a sentence that I said, but it happened.
I'm sorry. yes, it happened.
It's
it was
a real
on the news, and I remember vividly that the teachers were talking about it, telling us to shut the hell up about it.
As like... Honestly, I felt like most of it was relegated to just YouTube videos. I never saw anyone say they saw a clown.
No
one said they saw a clown.
Honestly, it's probably a hoax. I don't do conspiracy theories.
Oh no! I'm not gonna go and say it was a hoax, but I do, and we'll talk about conspiracies later because there's a few I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm. I mentioned one the first episode.
Yeah, not just the Men in Black being the IRS for Mothman.
It starts that way.
Yours truly. But yeah, Behind the Sightings is just like a time capsule of the 2016, don't laugh, clown epidemic. Okay?
I'm a big boy.
Yeah. So it's set in like this documentarian style. It's this couple, it's a man and a wife, and it's so funny. She's like, also, first off, it took like 4 years to get this movie made. So it came out like last year or the year before. It was being made in the ballpark of 2017, but it took years for it to come out. And I wish I could tell you where the extra production time went. I have no idea. So it's filmed in like Raleigh, North Carolina, and
the Hurricanes.
A little off. This was filmed in 2017, but it didn't come out until right around when the hurricanes would have hit.
Oh, well, that's not exactly what I was talking about. That might be in course corrections.
Which hurricane are you talking about?
Carolina Hurricanes and NHL.
Jesus, man.
I might be wrong. I
thought you meant the recent hurricane that hit Raleigh. Excuse me.
No.
The thing is, I love NHL. I made a statement last episode about the Thrashers and how butthurt I was that the Thrashers get stolen by the Canucks. That's not the point.
Look, I'm Pittsburgh all the way, baby.
You can keep it. I was robbed of my Atlanta Thrashers, so I'll go see a Gladiators game all the way, baby, but I'm not gonna. Nope.
What are they? A Boston affiliate now?
Gladiators?
Yeah.
Are they?
This isn't a sports podcast.
No, I haven't.
Let's get back on track.
All I want to say is I haven't followed NHL in the same way I haven't followed WWE for years. Like, there's like, you want to talk about like a time capsule. When I think of WWE, for example, I think of like 2005 to 2009. That's like peak golden era for me. And NHL is kind of the same way. So it's like I can't tell you what the hell's going on in either world at that point. But Behind the Sightings is 2016, has nothing to do at all with hurricanes. It has everything to do with clowns. And it's funny how they treat clowns. So it's this man and wife, and they're doing a documentary. It's so funny. They say this is a long time dream of theirs, which is weird because it's the movie set in 2017 about the 2016 clown epidemic. So how long have you had a dream on making a documentary about clowns? That's weird. But it gets better. They also say that it's possibly the thing that brought them together as a couple in the first place. I look, I don't know. It's just, that's not the weirdest thing. I'm not going to get in like heavy spoilers because it's really not like that kind of movie. It's not interesting enough for me to go through the plot beats and tell you what happens. But the way they treat clowns as a non-human entity could have been interesting. because they don't act like they're people in costumes or masks. It's just like a wild animal. They go out in the woods and they're like, "Oh my god, it's a clown, baby! Look! It's a clown! This is so awesome!" And they go up there like sneaking up to the clown, filming it like it's a wild deer. And he's holding a baseball bat, just standing there. I'm like, you're in the middle of the woods in North Carolina, and there's a clown in front of you in the middle of nowhere, standing there with a baseball bat. And you're like, baby, look, it's a clown. Get this on camera. And then there's like clowns in the woods and stuff. It's great. It's really funny.
Where'd you watch it on?
I watched it on Tubi. Because this only Tubi would have a movie like this.
Tubi's got some real good schlock, like some real good stuff. As you probably know already, me and my boy here, we love us some B movies. We love us some cheap bargain bin, dumpster fire movies.
That's exactly what these are.
You can find some gems in the B movies slot, but recommend checking out Tubi. It's free. It's got a few ads, but
Maybe they'll sponsor us now. We'll give them a shout out. We're licking their boots, kissing their ass.
we're not sponsored.
Keep that in mind, folks. We're not sponsored.
Yeah. They got some slock. I recommend checking it out. But what's the second one, Chandler?
Oh, you don't want to keep talking about the clown movie?
I think we got a pretty good synopsis of it.
You get the gist.
Also with these kind of reviews, there are some that I kind of just want to talk in depth with, and some that I just want
the kind that you do.
Well, I want to leave it to the audience to go check it out themselves.
Right.
We don't want to reveal too much, unless like when we get to the Blair Witch. If you haven't seen the Blair Witch, what are you doing?
Especially if you're a found footage fanatic.
Not just found footage, but a horror fan in general. What
Oh god, it's one of the best horror movies.
But wow, we'll get there.
Get there. Yeah, because that's kind of the point of what we're doing here. But yeah, these are all found footage movies, and the second one I saw was, you want to talk schlock? It's called Followed, and it's almost like you ever see Unfriended or one of those like.
I remember seeing the trailer for that.
Yeah, I never saw it either, but you get the gist. Or like Host, where it's a hybrid movie between like desktop recording and found footage style. So it's this blend, and it was heralded as this big innovative format. This by combining these two, it was doing something really wholly original. And I really don't think it does anything special with that, but essentially it's about sensationalism and how it revolves around the Lenox Hotel, which had a real life tragedy happen with Megan Kim. The lady who went on an elevator, went missing, was found in, what was it, a water cooler?
The water tank on top of the building.
Water tank on top of the building. That happened. So that's already a real life tragedy that the movie is making a part of its plot. And also,
taste.
It is in bad taste, and I don't know if the movie does itself any favors, because it's making fun of the concept of sensationalism and influencers and YouTubers, because the main guy, Drop the Mic, has a YouTube channel based entirely around going to crime scenes and going like he goes up to one murder scene where someone's body was dumped in a trash can. And he's like, right on this spot, yada, 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 died right here. And oh my God, is she still in there? Opens up the trash can. There's like these like spirit Halloween props all in there. And he picks up a head and starts like playing with the parts. It's very much in bad taste, but it's made worse by the fact that they eventually deal with a real location where a real life tragedy happened, making fun of people who do that by also doing the same thing.
Right.
And they don't call him Richard Ramirez, but then they call him like the Night Crawler instead of the Night Stalker.
Did you ever see that movie?
I did. Yeah, it was really good. Unfortunately, it's not found. Huh?
Is it X-Men?
Nightcrawler?
Yeah.
Yeah. The blue guy?
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It's one of those like related but non-related movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I did. So Followed is about the Lenox hotel, and like some creepy paranormal stuff happens, and it's not very well done. It's not subtle, and that's how I like my horror. Like how we'll get to with the Blair Witch, the subtlety of it is what enhances it. You don't really get that with this movie. It's very upfront and very hokey and very cheesy, very in your face the whole time, and it's commentary on internet sensationalism about real life crime and tragedies. It doesn't add up to much when they're doing the same damn thing. So I would recommend it. I enjoy it. I think I enjoyed the clown movie more, funnily enough, even though it's way smaller in scale and budget. I appreciate what it tried to do. The characters are insufferable. Like a lot of found footage movies, they're not very likable. But we'll get to some later where the characters are likable and that we can actually go in more depth about them. So those are the two that I saw last night. The third one is a fever dream. I think it was from the perspective of a doorbell cam, like the entire movie. All these are on Tubi, by the way, every single one.
I got homework when I go to work.
The clown one and Follow, they're decent watches.
Well, what's the name of the clown one?
Behind the Sightings.
Behind the Sightings.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I don't know why I was in production for so long because it doesn't really show. But I don't know. I have a soft spot for these kind of movies because it's like they made a film and it was their passion project and they spent their own money to make it with limited resources. And I gotta give them props. Was the movie great? No. But found footage as a genre, and this is why I get so much bad rap, is because it's easy to get into, it's easy to make, but it's a great starting ground for people to get their foot through the door and show off their filmmaking chops. So out of the list that I sent you, talk about the ones you saw, and we'll have a back and forth on it.
So, before we start, I would like to say that me and Chandler have a little bit of a different perspective for these kind of movies. Chandler will give more leeway for the reason he said it's their first movie or a good starting point. I guess I'm a dick to put it in layman's terms, but if you're gonna do found footage, you gotta do it. It's got to be a good film. It can't be schlock. It can't be because it's easy to pump something out if you just run around with a camera and you don't have to worry about lining up shots and making everything look good. If you're running around, and it's got to be a good film. It's got to be a good film, period, for me. And I think, honestly, there's only one on this list, which surprisingly was the first film that I was actually appalled by. And
this is a hot take, by
yes.
the way. In this community, in certain circles, this is a big hot take.
But I'm just going to start with saying that I was very appalled by it. But Chandler, I want you to give a synopsis, name the movie, give us a little summary of it, because I will respect the popular opinion, even though I disagree with it wholeheartedly. I want people to get the synopsis and have a chance to go check it out before I go in and
guns ablazing.
Yes, because
you're gonna tear this one a new asshole.
I will.
When you're done.
Chandler can testify to this. This is probably the first movie where I was extremely vocal about how I hated this movie.
You've never described a movie as disgusting. You were disgusted by this film.
Yes.
And this film,
not in a good way, but please continue. I'm sorry.
This movie is Lake Mungo, and it's quite popular in many found footage circles, and some would even say it's the scariest found footage movie ever made. I know you're shaking in your little boots right now. You got your temper flaring. Just hold yourself at bay, all right? Because I am actually going to say some positive things about it.
That's why you're here.
Yeah,
somebody here needs
I have
to be.
I have to because I don't think it's as bad as you say. So Lake Mungo it's Australian, right?
Yes.
Because when I saw it, I thought it was South African. I don't know why. I only saw it once, and I had to watch it in spurts. I had to do like 2 or 3 different sessions watching it.
I watched it in one go.
That's the problem. That's probably why you hate it as much, because even I had to take breaks. So it's
spoil anything.
No.
Just kind of give
No.
a summary of it.
I'm just gonna say a young woman dies, drowns in a lake, possibly even Lake Mungo, but no spoilers. And some supernatural occurrences happen thereafter, and they get them on camera. Now, there's definitely some twists and turns and some revelations that may or may not have anything to do with the actual plot of the movie or simply there to pad out time, sure. But when people discuss this movie and call it the scariest one they've ever seen, most of the movie is very much a slog. It's very slow, and they only refer to like the last minute or two of the movie. It's all people talk about and all people cite when crediting this as the scariest movie they've ever seen. And I went in already knowing what the twist was, and so the impact wasn't there for me. But I'll say this: I'm already a big fan of very slow burning films. That I don't want to use this word again, but I will. You drown in the atmosphere. It's drenched in this sense of doom. And I'll be honest, doom is like my favorite feeling in a horror movie, and it's surprising how hard it is to pull off the feeling of something bad is happening, and because we don't know what it is, our imagination goes wild. That's why other movies on this list are very successful, because you don't know what the danger is. It's like Jaws, except this time you don't actually know it's a shark. Because what if they did put the shark on the cover? You know, what they just did put the big ass shark on the poster of the movie, and you went in not knowing what it was. It may have turned out even scarier,
right,
for those first audiences. But I didn't go in blind, so I already kind of knew what that big reveal is. And even then, when you get the reveal, you're not entirely sure what it means. And by the end of it, I can definitely see people coming out feeling like this was a waste of time, because it doesn't do any of the legwork to explain itself or make a lot of the plot points relevant by the end. All I can say is I enjoy the atmosphere and I enjoy the ride and I like a few of the twists. But you brought up a good point about why one of the twists and one of the plot points, not just is it irrelevant, it's actually kind of a slap in the face to the audience. Would you want to go into depth about that?
So you can take this time, pause the podcast, go watch the movie, because I'm about to go in and talk about big spoilers for this film. It's been out for a while, but I want to give a shout out to Ryan Hollinger on YouTube, who is
this guy's great.
Yeah, is actually the first time I ever heard of this movie. I watched his full video years ago before I even watched it like last week, and I remember a little bit of it, but not like the whole picture. I just remember him talking about how this is a good film. This is going to be a really good film. You gotta watch it. You're gonna enjoy it.
He's a guy whose opinion you respect.
It is. It's like, I'm not discrediting his opinion by disagreeing with it right now, but he's got tons of good videos, which I actually agree with a lot of the things that he says in his videos. But take this time, go watch the movie.
All right, buddy, have your way with this movie.
I'm gonna say it. It fucking sucked. It was fucking bad. That's my opening statement.
It's not the closing one.
It might be the same one. So, to start with, it is one of the most boring fucking movies I've ever seen in my entire life. And I don't want to keep harping on Ryan, going back to his channel, talking about the video, but he says that how the dialogue in it feels real. It straddles this line, because it's a documentary style film. So I guess you would say mockumentary about this haunting. Yeah. He says it straddles this line of like believable and hammy. I think I say on the contrary that I think there's too monotone. I feel like they have no emotion with what they're saying.
Especially the mother.
Oh, it's like
her daughter's dead, and there's just nothing.
And to pivot off of that, but I'll get to it later too. this movie is supposed to be about how after death you can't say the things you wish you said to those people.
Yeah, it's a good message.
Like how you'll see that she didn't have the best relationship with her mother, and the family is reflecting on that and saying that we have to move forward, even if she did never knew how much we actually loved her. Because you'll see through the movie that their love for each other is not a spoken thing. There's not much affection. There's not much like, "Hey, I love you. I just want you to know that." I want to reassure their kids that they are loved and everything. It's kind of just like a felt thing. And I know. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. I know that for some people in my life, I like when I just know. I know that they love me, but they don't have to say it. But then there's some people where I'm like, I need that kind of reassurance that they do care about me.
I love you. Is that good enough? There, I said it.
It's recorded. It's live and it's recorded.
I never have to say it again.
Yeah,
there you go.
I'll just relive this moment. Anyway, so yeah, they're all monotone. They're so boring through the whole thing, and when you pat it through, they are at a beach and they're swimming, and when they come back in, the daughter isn't there with them, so they call the police. They can't find her, so they're talking about how it just didn't feel right that we were leaving with an empty seat, talking about the daughter. And later, I think that night or the next few days or whatever, her body is recovered from the bottom of this lake or river, and the father goes to identify the body because the mother doesn't want to see her like that, and the father identifies the body as his daughter. So through the course of the son seeing that his mother has so much grief, he thinks that maybe she'll find some closure if she goes sees the body herself. So he fabricates these paranormal activities to the point where like the parents call in a psychic to look at the full footage and do a seance and everything in the house. But turns out the fucker did it himself. The son fabricated it so that they could have the body dig back up because they did a burial for her, just so that the mother could see the body and have that kind of closure. And she didn't even have that kind of closure. They weren't at this point in the story that she didn't have that fulfillment or acceptance of this yet.
Yeah.
So it's like, not only is it pointless because it's supposed to be a ghost film, but then the kid says he fabricated it from the very beginning, and then the mother doesn't have any closure with it, and then it's not even halfway through the film yet. So not only do you have this boring dialogue, boring story, these characters that you have you can't get any kind of connection with, and then they put this plot point in, and it's like, oh, ghosts. Okay, and then you put yourself in the mindset, this is a ghost film. So they see these paranormal, and you want them to have this kind of closure. Like they're seeing the ghost of their daughter, so they get the psychic to try to contact her and stuff. And then they this isn't the biggest spit in the face, but I would say that it's kind of like pulling the rug under the audience. It's like, no, screw you. It was never real. You don't know what kind of movie this is, which sometimes it's really good. But from the beginning of the movie, I haven't been interested at all in it. And then to have this twist in it it's like,
undermines everything that's happened up to that point.
What was the point?
And
I'm like, literally at this point, I'm like, I don't know if I want to finish this movie. And that's a very rare thing for me because I'd like to give all movies the benefit of the doubt. I don't want to just call it quits halfway through.
You watched Evil Bong all the way through in one sitting.
I mean,
not even I did that, and I love that movie.
I watched it all the way through, and I was really happy with it. But we're talking about Lake Mungo. So then, when they're reviewing the mother starts reviewing the footage, and she sees a figure in her bedroom. Her because the original shot has the daughter in the hallway walking, which is actually the son. But she sees in her bedroom there's a man. There's a man in her bedroom. She originally thinks, "Oh, is that actually my daughter?" No, it's the neighbor. So then you're like, "What the hell is the neighbor doing in here?" And it turns out there's a fucking sex tape of the daughter when she's fucking 14 because she was babysitting the neighbors, and they just filmed this threesome with this. Obviously, the actor is a lot older, and then it doesn't even matter if like you want to look at like ages of consent in different kind of countries and everything. In the United States, for the most part, is all 18. That's age of consent overall. And in some countries it's lower and stuff, but she's a kid. She's 14. And why is this even in the movie? What does this do for the plot? This is the most disgusting spit in the face of the audience because you're like, all right, it's not a ghost movie. What are they going to do with it? And then they show you a sex tape of a 14-year-old.
It was consensual.
That's the most disgusting thing about it. How they describe it as consensual. And this isn't even the big part of the movie that everybody talks about. I don't know why this isn't talked about. I don't know why people see this as this great horror film in general. I think this is one of the most boring films, most disgusting films I've ever seen. I have never been more disappointed in a film. I have never been so in awe of how bad this film was. But let me finish the story. So after they figure out, oh, that's the neighbor, she fucked my daughter, and the neighbor skipped town as he couldn't find the tape, so he skipped town. So that whole point is done. They just brought it up and let it lie because the police weren't called. There wasn't an investigation about it. I mean, they said that they couldn't find them later. Like they tried looking for them, and then they tried to call the police to find them, and then the police couldn't find them. So it's like there should be like some kind of it. Australia is a big country. It's one of those countries that's it. It's an island. The whole thing is you can search left to right of the entire. Obviously, it'd be difficult if you want to look throughout the outback, but majority of the society is on the what's that? East coast of the island. Because the other
Southeast.
side is of the outback. So it's like, what the fuck was even the point? And so after that, they find footage that the daughter's boyfriend had of their time at Lake Mungo. Yeah, and some kind of student retreat camp kind of thing. So they find footage of her, and she's burying something under a tree. And I haven't even mentioned the part that when she came back, she didn't have her new phone, she didn't have her favorite bracelet, she didn't have one other thing. And we're supposed to be like, whoa, why did she leave those there? What's going on? But at this point, I'm so disconnected from the film, I don't even care what's going on. I'm literally trying my hardest to hold together what kind of story they're trying to tell me. And I'm doing everything I can to be like, okay, it can't be this bad. It's probably going to get better. It's probably going to get better. And so they go out to the camp and they dig it up. And they find her phone, they find the bracelet, and they find the other item. That's how much I can't even remember what the other item was. It's whatever. So they are looking at her phone and the footage, and this is the motherfucking shot they talk about when they talk about this movie. And I've never seen a more anticlimactic. I didn't feel any kind of buildup. I didn't feel any kind of tension in this scene whatsoever. And then they're panning up to this person that's walking towards the daughter, and it's a shot of the corpse that they pulled out of the river. And
damn it, I got goosebumps. Why?
they
Uh,
and it's supposed to be like this. Oh, she saw her own death coming. She didn't know when it was gonna happen. She just knew she was gonna die soon. So she buried her mementos and everything, and it's supposed to be this amazing jump scare, this amazing horror shot, which I think was probably the poorest scare of the entire movie. It was like I said, anticlimactic. There was no tension, there was no build up to it. It's just this figure walking towards her, and then oh my gosh, it's her dead body. Ooh. And after they watch this film and they find this out there, they come back to the house and they're all peachy. It's like they've somehow accepted her death and they're able to move forward.
they could bring more questions to the table.
Yeah, like literally anything. And I didn't even mention the fact that the psychic saw the daughter before she died, the same psychic that the parents saw, because it's like illegitimate to the story plot. It was so unneeded, and you can argue that if the mom knew that he saw the psychic before she died, she would have never gone to the psychic. And I was like, none of the psychic shit even mattered because the son fabricated the film of the paranormal activity. And to cap it all off, there's this parting scene where it's like, oh, she was always in the shots. All the scenes that he fabricated, she was actually in the shot, but nobody saw her. It's almost like they changed the film for the last shot of the movie,
which is more egregious than anything else in my mind.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can shit on me in the comments. You can crucify me in the private messages. I don't care. If they were in the shot originally, I'm not gonna watch the movie again. I'm not doing it. I refuse to.
You have to watch it 2 times to really understand it.
I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna give it its credit. I think my one take. If it's a bad take, sure. If I'm being harsh, sure. If I'm being a dick, even better. But I'm gonna say that this was probably one of the worst films I've ever seen that had a significant budget to actually have a competent film. So you can, like you said, Evil Bong is a cheap movie. The concept is fucking funny, so you're not going to expect much from it. But its writing is incredibly good, and that would make up for the cheap effects. The only 2 locations in the entire movie, and like we'll get to the Hell House. If you have a solid movie all the way up to the very end, you can have one cheap effect, and it won't ruin the movie whatsoever. If it's like how you described it, you deserve it. But with this movie, Lake Mungo, I have no respect for it. It's one of the like I said, one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I do not recommend this movie. Chandler might say otherwise, but I do not recommend this movie. And I have never, in my entire life of watching films, enjoying films, and actually critiquing films, this is probably the most egregious film I've ever seen. In terms of there's so much potential there. There's so much they could do with it, and then every note, every scene, they just keep dropping the ball. And then to add insult to injury, they have the fucking 14-year-old sex tape on top of it that had nothing to do with the story. That's all I'm going to say about it. I'm going to give it back to my host so we can move on to the actually really good movies on this list.
It's amazing when you like something, you can only talk about it and say like, I like this, I like that. When you hate something, you write a whole fucking dissertation on it. You'll write a video essay on something you hate versus something you love.
I'll write a cease and desist on the studio that thought that was a good idea.
You know, Lake Mungo really is the Last Jedi of found footage movies. Let me explain. Tell me it's not written like a Ryan Johnson film, because it is all about subversion. Every plot point is set up like this is the direction the movie's going, and then it just says no. I don't think we're gonna go that way, and then it completely flips itself on its head and does something completely different. And now for something completely different, and that's exactly what it does. It's I don't know. I still enjoy it. I'm not gonna go on and prattle on for like 30 minutes about why it's bad, because like I agree that, because like I don't want to keep bringing up Evil Bong, but Evil Bong's got a script how I like my women. It's clean and it's tight, and that's like the best thing about it. I mean
written like a sitcom.
it's written like a 90s sitcom. It is honestly one of the best written and most well realized characters in a movie I've seen in a very long time, which is a feat unto itself. But Lake Mungo is very scattered, and it's very jumbled in places. But I find enjoyment in it mostly for the atmosphere. No, the characters are nothing to write home about, but I actually do enjoy that final scare. And while you may not even call it a scare, the first time I saw it, I legitimately got goosebumps. Not because I'm a pussy, even though that might be the case, but I was never scared. Yeah, that's that picture there. No, the picture itself isn't scary, but the lead up to it I thought was well realized. I thought so. I enjoy it for what it is. No, it's not in my top echelon of found footage movies. Most certainly compared to the ones on this list.
Oh yeah.
But I would recommend it as a fan of found footage movies and foreign found footage movies.
Lake Mungo, 2008. It's an hour and 29 minutes. It's free on Tubi. 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb. 96 on Rotten Tomato and 3.8 out of 5 on Shudder.
It's a highly praised film. And it's amazing how long you're able to talk about how much you dislike it.
Now, with
What's
that
next?
shit out of the way, we could talk about a pretty good film, Hell House LLC.
A lot of people agree on this one too. This is universally acclaimed by most fans of the genre. It's honestly the first 15 minutes you said were the weakest part, right?
I didn't say there was any weak points.
Who I was talking with somebody about Hell House. I don't remember now. I was talking to them about Hell House, and they're like, "Yeah, the first 15 minutes are the weakest for me." Oh, it was someone online. Yeah, it was someone on Reddit. I was reading. Excuse me, I didn't have this conversation in real life. No one I know other than you or Willow probably talks about fucking Hell House. But yeah, someone on Reddit was like, "Yeah, the first 15 minutes were the weakest part." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Like, it's one of the best 15 minutes I've ever seen in a found footage movie." That like because something I love in movies is not just a sense of doom, but I love a chaotic situation, just being dumped in the middle of it and not knowing like what's really happening. And so having that first 15 minutes where they go in through the haunted house and you see people with the headlamps on, the staff members, and they got the walkies, and you get it's like it's not out of the ordinary. It's not weird to have staff members just standing there with the walkies and everything. But as they're going through the tour, then you see a woman screaming and goes out one of the side exits that every haunted house has. And again, yeah, that's what those side exits are there for. If people get too scared, they can just leave through one of those exits as quickly as possible. It's not too unfounded that that's something that Dennis. I hate the the name drop the guy. I highly doubt he's listening to this, but when me and Dennis went to crap, what was it called? Oh, Zombie Apocalypse in Atlanta. It was it's a haunted house, of course, themed around zombies, and this guy got scared within the first, I think, first 5 minutes. He saw one zombie, shit himself, and then had to leave. This was on my birthday, in front of all my other friends. Motherfucker embarrassed me.
Dennis, I will
Dennis
save.
the Menace.
I will save my Dennis story if we ever get to talk about Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse.
Do you think Dennis will come on the podcast?
If you're even in contact with him anymore,
I could probably get it. It's been some years, but I hope I could. We love you, Dennis. Wherever you are, we love you.
Yes, as much as I was like, shut the fuck up, Dennis. I really appreciate that memory, and if we ever do talk about Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, I will tell that story.
Yeah, it's all in good fun. But yeah, that's what it reminds me of is this the fact that you see people freaking out here in the haunted house, but it's a haunted house, so of course people are scared. Of course people are screaming and running around. But as it progresses, you're realizing the severity of the situation and that there's actually a danger and a threat in the haunted house. But even with all the red flags leading up to it, we as a viewer are picking up on it, but the people in the haunted house are not, which I think is just brilliant.
It reminds me of that concert fire footage.
The Great White,
Yeah.
because no one fires up a crowd like Great White. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It definitely gives me those kind of chills.
Haunting, especially when they go into the basement, like sardines are all packed in there, and then everyone's like, "Go back, go back!" and they're trying to turn around, but they're so crowded that they all get stuck at the door. I mean, we were just talking about sensationalistic and real life tragedies and stuff like that, but I think it's a great comparison is that video, which honestly feels like a found footage movie. It doesn't even feel real when you watch it.
It's scary, man.
It's very haunting because of it's real. In this movie, you're right, gives off a similar vibe. It's a bunch of people trying to escape, and they can't.
I think after showing the footage at the beginning of the movie and discussing it, I think that you need to go into the summary.
I'm sorry, this is some banger ass moonshine. Shout out to Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Here.
Cheers, buddy. Click. That's probably so loud in the mic.
Oh shit!
It's ASMR right here.
Ah shit!
Screw it. Let's just become an ASMR channel. So the summary. I mean, I can't really spoil the first 15 minutes, so spoiler warning, folks. I'm sorry, but it's a mystery movie. It's about this tragedy that happens at a haunted house that we, for whatever reason, decided to parallel to the Great White Fire for whatever reason. I don't know why, but yeah, it's
sad.
It's very sad, and it makes me wonder if they even did it on purpose. You think?
To kind of have the characters make you feel sympathy for them.
Perhaps, maybe, but I think it's done tastefully. It's done well. But there's this tragedy in which 15 people, both staff and tour guests, die inside this haunted house that has been open since like 2002. The film's made in 2015, but it takes place in 2009. And I was telling you, I felt a big wave of nostalgia hit me watching this. Like, I don't know why I'm oddly nostalgic for October 2009, but I am, and I watch it, and it's like a very cozy. It's like very cozy experience for me being set in 2009. I don't know why, but so 50 people die in the basement of this haunted house, and then the documentary. Well, excuse me. Remember Christy from the first Friday the 13th movie?
Yes.
He's opening up the camp again. That's kind of what it reminds me of. You got these people trying to, start up the haunted house again, and of course it's found footage, so they're gonna film every fucking second and everything they do.
Yeah.
And of course things ensue, possibly of a paranormal nature. Who knows? You'll have to watch it and find out. But I think it's done well enough. I like it, and a lot of people will put it up there in their top 5. But that's the summary. That's the gist, and this is the part where we go more in depth because Slug here has watched it far more recently than I have. I saw it like 2 or 3 years ago, so it's not as fresh.
I saw it last week.
Exactly. So go into it, buddy.
So this is the moment where you pause it, go watch the movie if you don't want any spoilers. But we're going in. As we talked about, there is footage of. So it starts out with the footage that we talked about, and it was posted on YouTube, and it was the only footage they've ever the surrounding area and everybody saw of the night.
Yeah, so one handheld camera.
Yeah, that they brought into the tour.
It was a 911 call.
Yeah, there was the 911
It's not
call.
it's not as well done.
No.
the video's way better.
But the haunt takes place in an abandoned motel
Mhm.
that this guy opened by
Abaddon.
himself. Abaddon, yes. Abaddon started, and he one night this woman checks in, and then she never checks back out. And they searched the place, and they couldn't find anything on him. The records say that she checked out, but that was the last place anybody ever saw her. And coincidence enough, they found him later. He hung himself in the attic, I believe. I could be wrong, but he hung himself, and it's supposed to be this spoopy hotel in Abaddon. Is the location of not only the person but also the location of the motel that's on the outskirts of New York City. So this team of haunted house
Entrepreneurs.
yeah, I
Sure.
guess.
Sure. Haunters, yeah.
Yeah, haunters. Find this location, and they want to do it in this kind of haunted outskirts of the city kind of place, and they think that they can bring in more crowds. And they go inside, and it's like, oh, look, we could do this, we could do that, we could do this. Walking through it, planning out the haunt. And they get to the basement, and only one person of the group, there is a straight up pentagram just painted on the wall.
It's very subtle, in my opinion.
Yeah, and a bunch of Bibles that are burnt or ripped up in the basement too. And I think it was the woman, the girlfriend of the head of the house, haunted house, of the company that he started. He was like, no, babe, it's not a problem. It just adds to it. This one less thing we don't have to do. We don't have to paint the pentagram on the wall because it's already there.
The work's done for them.
Yeah. And so they get footage. Obviously, it's found footage, and it's by the cinematographer of the group. And he was just filming everything. He's a little bit of a perv, but the way that his character is written, it's kind of be like,
I'll give him a pass.
Yeah, he's funny, and they shoot the shit. There's a scene where they're talking at the bar, talking about how they're gonna plan out the haunt and everything. They got the power on, and it slowly throughout the movie, the props in the basement start showing up upstairs, kind of like spooking them. Stand in the hallway, they look, and they go get somebody to come look, and they're gone. And then,
it's very well done.
Oh yeah. And then one night, the cinematographer guy wakes up in his room because he's been filming, and turns on the camera, and he's like rubbing his eyes, and he turns to look at the doorway, and right next to the doorway, there's like a woman there. And like a child, he hides under the blanket, pulls the blanket down. She gets closer, pulls the blanket up, pulls it down. She's closer. And then for a long few minutes, he holds it there, and he's breathing. And it's audible that he's like, all right, he's calmed himself down. Maybe he's thinking, just in my head, this isn't real. He holds the blanket down, and the woman's right there, and the camera kind of messes up. Then he's gone. In the morning, he's gone. Everybody thinks he bailed because allegedly he had bailed previously for 2 nights on one of their other haunts. And this is 2 days before they open. They have actors that are supposed to be downstairs. A woman and a man dressed up as a clown down in the basement. We'll get to them in a minute. But they're like, what the hell, man? He's always bailing. And one of the other guys is like, no, it's not that big of a deal. I'm sure he'll show up, whatever. The night before, they open shop. Mannequins are moving again. They hear something going on and they think it's the cinematographer guy. They run downstairs and they don't see anything. And the dude's like, "Oh, this is too scary, man."
That's exactly what he sounded like too. Good impression.
Yeah, this is too scary, man. And he sees the mannequin's head, or not the mannequins, but the props, the clowns, turn their heads towards. It's a good scene. It's a really good shot. He turns to him, and they're all looking at him, and he's like, "Fuck, man!" And they push him into this kind of cooler. One of the other workers for the main house guy, and they put him in the cooler, and he's like, "Dude, their heads moved, man." And the other guy's like, "I thought you told me that they weren't supposed to move." And he's like, "Yeah, I know. They're not supposed to move."
That's the problem.
Yes, that's the problem. Because they wanted to, this year they didn't have enough money for actual moving, other than the one creature upstairs. So these are just prop dummy clowns. But their head turned, so they jumped in there. He's like, no. And he's like, "All right, go start real. It's in your head," or something along those lines. And he's like, "On three, we're gonna go out there, and it's gonna be fine." He's like, "No, man, don't do it. And they go out, and the clowns are exactly where they were, supposed to be.
Of course.
And they're yelling at. He's yelling at. He's like, "Man, it's fine." He's like, no, dude, this is not right." And conveniently enough, the cinematographer guy is just sitting, blank stare on the basement floor, just looking. And they're yelling at him. He's, "Man, what's wrong with you? Why'd you leave? And so we go to opening day, and it's so good how these particular shots are spliced together. So it's security footage inside the haunted hotel, or the haunt, and it's the spliced with the YouTube video we saw previously. It's such a good shot, and they're going through the haunt, and the actors. And I'm not surprised, but the only character's name I remembered is Jared, the clown in the basement. Because something's going on, people are screaming. The main cinematographer, or no, the guy that was in that cooler that wasn't the guy that saw the clowns. He's got a head cam on, and he's going through it. He's the guy talking on the mic in the walkie-talkie in the YouTube video that's shown at the beginning of the movie. And he finally gets down to this basement, and it's so good, man. Before he gets to the basement, the security or the security footage sees, or when he actually gets down there, and he sees Jared just bolts out of like, you can see it on the footage in the YouTube video. The clown runs by the people and just books it out of there, and it shows security footage from inside and outside that Jared just runs, man.
The clown's the scary thing.
Yeah.
What scares the clown?
Yeah, he's just running, man. And the funniest part, I found it funny, is that the woman who's the actor who's chained up in her underwear and stuff, Jared has the key.
Unfortunately for her.
Yeah, Jared has the key. And as soon... So, a portal opens up right with the in the ground, and these demons come out, and Jared just said nope, and ran as fast as a fat man can run. He's just...
I'm sure he burned like 50 pounds in the sprint.
And the poor woman is yelling, "Jared, the key! Jared, the key!" And if you watch that scene that we're talking about right here, Jared has time to undo her shackles and run. He has time, because they're really slow going. But Jared said, "No, I'm getting out of here." It just bolts, man. Usain bolts out of there, man. Just, and the footage shows that these creatures came out and is messing with the woman, and the guy's headlamp comes off and it hits the ground. And this is what we were talking earlier. If you have a really good film all the way through, you can have one bad effect. You can have one bad effect and not take it away. The portal that the woman gets dragged into is a very cheap special effect. Like you can see, like it's so cheap that you can see that it's out of place, but it works because of how competent the movie has been so far. So you're like you notice it, but it doesn't ruin the immersion. And so they the woman that you see run into the side exit is one of the girlfriend of the main guy, and he's running upstairs, and they looking on the security footage that Jared ran. The guy with the headlamp is gone, and he's like, "What's going on? What's going on?" And I'm gonna leave it at that.
That was a very entertaining retelling of the story.
It's not over. I'm leaving it at this point, and I really want everybody to go and watch this movie.
Well, if they're staying for the spoilers, then they've probably already seen it. But for the people who stuck around, it's like it's worth it to have heard all these spoilers and not hear the last part. It's still worth it.
It's so worth it.
Yeah. It's amazing how untapped the location is in a found footage movie. Think about it. We can name. I know there's more, but what are the two that come to mind? One of which is on this list that we'll get to. It's Hell House and House October Built. The only ones that really utilize the haunted house location for its premise. And it's amazing how effective that actually is.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, it's a haunted house. Haunted houses are scary. And truth be told, the actual props that they have in the haunted house, they're not like Netherworld or, they're not like, it's not like when you watch the first 15 minutes, you see them going through the haunted house. The haunted house itself isn't that great.
No.
But there's scarier things in that haunted house other than the props. And you'll just have to see it for yourself. Let's move on to the next one. And let's try to be more speedy about our retelling.
Especially with this one.
This is Blair Witch?
This is Blair Witch.
Okay. This is one that needs no introduction. This is the granddaddy. Most people would cite this, and we've said this before. Most people will say it's the first one because it was so popular and so influential. People forget that there was movies before.
People also forget that it had a sequel.
I forget it has a sequel because I don't want to think about it.
2016 Blair Witch is not that bad, but I will say Book of Shadows is better than Lake Mungo.
You're out of your mind.
It is better than Lake
I
Mungo.
will actually fight you on this. I don't get heated by many things. Book of Shadows is damn near unwatchable. It has the weirdest editing. It's so distracting.
I'm not even in that kind of field of editor. Like I could probably figure it out if I got down.
Lake Mungo is competent. And now you may not like the presentation of what it has to say and what it's trying to do. The execution of it, in your eyes, is poor. I don't know if there's one single person that could say otherwise for Book of Shadows.
I look at Book of Shadows the same way I look at The Last Jedi. And everybody knows what I said about The Last Jedi in the previous episode. But I'll keep it short and sweet. To just say, no, we're going to do something different with it. To just throw away anything that was established, anything that was canon, and just roll with something else.
No. If let me just say this. Let's rip this off, right? I would rather get a vasectomy. Because if watching Lake Mungo is a kick in the balls, watching Book of Shadows is a straight up vasectomy. It's like getting my balls cut off with fucking garden shears and shoved up my own ass. That is exactly what the experience is watching Book of Shadows. It's horrendous. It's gross to look at, and I simply, to put it frank, I do not like it.
Did you watch 2016?
I don't want to.
We're gonna watch 2016.
I don't want to.
Too bad.
They show the witch. They show it.
It's not confirmed that that's the witch.
It's also heavily implied it's fucking aliens too, which I'm sure
the director came out and said it wasn't.
Yeah, but like as a viewer watching them, also you know this more than anybody. It's when you put up something out there, it's up to audience interpretations. When you make art and you put it out in the world, I'm sorry, you watch that movie and it's aliens. But Chandler, you didn't watch the movie. I don't have to. In the fucking trailer, they show the witch, quote unquote, the witch, and they heavily imply that it's aliens. And if most people left the theater thinking that, no, I don't want to go and read the interview from the director to see that it's not aliens. I just know that the majority of people leaving the theaters came out saying that it was. If I leave the movie thinking it's aliens, then by God, it's aliens. I don't give a shit what the director said.
We're gonna watch it.
Okay, we'll watch it, and I'll probably have a really good time. But
it's better. It's shot better. It's edited better. The story's better.
That's the problem.
Anyway, Blair Witch. Everybody knows it.
Everyone loves it.
Yeah. Three investigators are going to do on-site research of the Blair Witch. They go into the woods. Shit happens. Stones start showing up. Twig people start showing up. They get to a house.
Don't forget the laughter in the woods while they're in the tent.
Yeah, the laughter
probably
in the
best
woods.
scene in the movie.
Oh, God, yeah. Get to the house. And they disappear. And I'll leave it at that, because especially, it's not very spoiler, but I definitely think that it doesn't need an introduction. It doesn't need a summary. If you don't know what it is, just go watch it.
Do you not have an interpretation of the ending or what you think is going on? Because if 2016 heavily implies certain things, so does the original. The original definitely it connects things.
The witch in 2016, it is manipulating time.
Yeah.
Just like that's like, but it also asks questions: how did the tapes from 2016 get into custody? How are we able to watch it? Because if this was 1800s or whatever, the tapes would have deteriorated by 2016 or whenever it's supposed to take place. But the flashing lights is supposed to be the manipulating of time, going back and forth, showing the same thunder strike every single time because it's raining outside. It's just going back and forth. It's a little weird because of how the lighting is shot through the wall, but that's what it's supposed to be, is the time lapse of going back and forth of the same lightning strike. But I think the original killer in that house is when they went into the house, the witch, when you go into that house, you only see the house when the witch wants you to see it. Like the witch in Blair Witch, the original, 1999?
Yeah.
99. The witch wanted the police to find those tapes. That's why we're able to see them. Just like in 2016, the witch wanted us to see those tapes. Because it's also implied that the lights that are on the outside are the people looking for them. Because of the time lapse, they could have been gone for years or a week, and they're out there looking for them, but they can't see the house. So the flashlights are like this and that. But I like the theory that it's the time lapse of the lightning strikes.
Yeah.
But it also shows credit to the theory that the house can only be seen when the witch wants the house to be seen.
I just like it more simple. I like the simplicity of that first movie, and that's why it's so effective, is because there isn't an answer. But there are dots to connect. Like, for instance, the child murders that happened in, I believe, was it, fact check me on this real quick, was it the 40s or 50s when these killings take place? But the house belonged to the old man who murdered children. And it's not explained as to, I never played the games that came out.
I wanted to.
Yeah, I think they made 3 of them. But maybe it explains it there. But in the original movie, we know that there's an old man who lives on the mountain.
1941.
41? Okay.
Yeah.
So in
Rustin
1941,
Parr.
what's his name?
Rustin Parr told police he murdered 7 children in Burkittsville,
Burkittsville,
Maryland.
which used to be Blairsville. That's why it's called the Blair Witch. So yeah, he killed 7 children in his house on top of this mountain. This is the house that they go to later at the very end of the film. And before he would kill a child, he'd make one face the corner of the wall, and then he'd kill the other kid, and then kill the one facing the wall, which is exactly what happens at the very end of the movie when you have, what's his name? Is his name Mike? Fact check me again.
Mike's the one who threw the
He's the one with the map, right?
Map in the river.
Yeah, it's Mike, right? It's been a while since I've seen it. I believe it's Mike.
And the most recent one I saw was Book of Shadows.
Sorry.
So
what you looking at?
You have Heather, Michael, and Joshua.
Yeah, I remember. Okay, yeah, I got their names.
Michael Michael threw the map in the river.
That son of a bitch. I don't want to have to do a discourse correction every episode, so it's like I want to nip this in the bud like mid sentence, right. Just kind of. I don't want to say the wrong name.
I don't think they were out there to kill her.
No, that's stupid because if Josh and
a lot of things that have to go right.
Oh yeah, because if Mike and Josh took Heather out there to murder her, here's the problem: not just are they getting it all on tape, but then they disappear themselves, and like, who wants to do that? Because now, like, not just did you kill her, now you have to be missing. And everyone's going to know you were out there. You told everyone. Even Josh explicitly says that his girlfriend knows he's out there and that she's worried about him. Why would he tell her where he was going, when he was going, and what he was doing, and who he was with, just to murder Heather and disappear? That makes no sense. But I like
part of the cult.
That's stupid. No. I do like the whole idea that maybe the old man was possessed and or was offering sacrifices to the witch, like that was on the rocks earlier in the movie, way back in the day. Those ritualistic killings on the rock. And so it seems like people are doing sacrifices, but it's interesting at the very end of the movie, they harken back to the old man with having Mike face the corner of the wall, and then Heather dies. And again, it's effective because it's not really explained. Even at the end of the movie, you have so many lingering questions, and that's why it's effective. The second you explain things, the horror of it's gone, in my eyes, anyways. That's pretty much Blair Witch. There's really not too much to talk about. It's one of those movies you just experience. We don't really have to linger on it too long. So what do we have next?
The House October Built.
Woo! Well, we're not going to dwell on these for too long. I think the time's already running kind of long, so I'll say this. For a movie with a budget of $106,000, it's funny to me because I saw also on Reddit. I spend a lot of time on Reddit, especially when I'm on the pooper. But yeah, I'll spend like 45 minutes on the toilet, and like 2 minutes of that is just me taking a shit. The rest is scrolling. I know, relatable. But this person on Reddit was saying that that it's really low budget, and that it was distracting them how low budget it was. They're like, oh yeah, like compared to movies like Hell House, it's so low budget. I can't even watch it. So look up the budget of Hell House for me. I don't know who this person is, but I'm gonna give them a piece of my mind. Look this up. God, some good moonshine. What's Hell House's budget?
I'm trying to find information.
Is it not available?
I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I wish it was just as easy as
House October Built.
Yeah,
which is just right there, front and center. Interesting. Okay.
I'll come back to you.
Yeah, because it's just funny that this person was saying that, oh yeah, it's got such a low budget. $106,000 for this kind of project is actually a lot of money. And I personally think it shows in its presentation because they go to a bunch of different haunted houses, and it, I don't want to get into the plot. I really don't. I don't think I want to give a synopsis. Really, it's a bunch of people trying to find like the scariest haunted house, yada yada, and they're being followed between locations. Personally, I just kind of want to talk about what I think's going on because I haven't seen two. There is a sequel I have not seen, but it's like a conspiracy between different haunted houses and particularly individual members of these haunt crews are like following this documentary group around, stalking them and showing up where they don't belong, and you see like um, familiar faces pop up. You're like, hey, that's weird. But the great thing about movies that revolve around haunted houses is, especially being set on Halloween, is there's so many different haunted houses where you don't know who's your friend, you don't know who's your enemy. These people are here to scare you. They're wearing face paint, they're wearing masks. Like that's why the premise is so great because there's no red flags until they start showing up where they don't belong. But the red flags you see early in the movie where they're at haunted houses and there's like someone mean mugging them from across the room or someone's following them around, it's not, it's creepy and it's scary, but that's what they do. That's what a haunter does. Their whole goal, their whole objective is to frighten you. So it's not out of the ordinary, and it's not so much a red flag as it is just what they do. And it doesn't become a red flag until they start showing up at other haunted houses, like the same familiar faces and the same haunters start showing up elsewhere, where it becomes apparent that they're being followed, and there's like this overarching conspiracy between like different haunted houses and stuff. And again, it doesn't explain it, and maybe part two does, but having just watching the first one, in my own head canon, I like to think that it's really just like a group of haunters who are trying out, almost like McCamey Manor over in California, where the whole idea is to give you the most visceral haunt experience possible.
Thought he moved to Tennessee because they had less restrictions.
They did, but you know, it started there.
I also couldn't find the budget.
Yeah, it's interesting, but they have the budget for House October build. Um, yeah, just the fact that they're. I personally think that they're like a group of people who aren't actually trying to do you harm. And I know that the sequel might completely shit on that theory, but I like to think that they're just out here trying to give people the most real, most frightening possible experience. And if they have to bury you alive to do it, then so be it.
Ooh, spoiler.
Hey, you don't. Hey, we don't know. We don't know who that is or when it happens. But all I'm saying is, oh yeah, there's gonna be spoilers, guys. If you've made it this far in the podcast and you don't think there's gonna be spoilers, you've come to the wrong place. Personally, that's my take. I think they're not trying to kill anybody. They're just out here trying to give the greatest Halloween experience possible. That's my take on it.
I agree. I when Sunny told me that theory, I agree. You know, it
Makes it
makes
more
a lot of
fun.
sense. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't like the idea that they're actually killing them. I like the idea that no, these are haunters giving you the greatest haunt experience of it. Because that's what think about it. That's what the documentary group is looking for. They're out here trying to film the greatest haunted house in America.
Well, it's not necessarily a professional documentary crew. It's more of a bunch of friends going to go film.
It's a documentary.
Yeah.
It's filmed in style as a documentary. I don't think you need to be fucking National Geographic to be considered a documentarian. I don't think any Joe Blow off the street could get a camera and call himself a journalist. I don't think you need permission from the UN to be a journalist. But yeah, that's my personal take on it, and it's very good.
It's very, very good. I highly recommend this one. This is probably, other than probably Savage Land or Troll Hunter. This is probably my favorite.
I didn't know Troll Hunter was that high up
It
on the
was
list for
really
you.
good. It was fun, but we'll get to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really all I have to say. I like the concept of, because it's set on Halloween, you don't know who your friend or enemy is. Just because these people are following you around, that doesn't mean they're trying to hurt you. They're trying to scare you. I have personally chased kids around with a fucking chainsaw dressed as Leatherface in a suburban neighborhood on Halloween and almost had the police called on me. Sometimes it gets to you. You get too much in character, and you get in the moment. It's happened. So I can personally attest that that's something that happens. But I think it's very, very well done, and a lot of people don't give it the credit it deserves. The next film on the list is
Project X.
Project X. This is Project X is the only one on here that's not a horror movie.
Yeah.
You haven't seen it. Project X is about the exploits of some high schoolers who are trying to throw the biggest party anyone's ever seen. Very ambitious, I know. But they pull it off. And they film the entire thing. It's awesome. It's really fun. It's like Troll Hunter's fun, but it has elements of horror in there. It's the intended goal is to be scary. But with Project X, it is just an entertaining ride. And I was saying earlier how I love movies that drop you into a chaotic situation, spiraling way out of control. And to watch it happen from the perspective of high schoolers, by the climax of the movie, every law known to man has been broken within the confines of this house, and is now spilling out into the streets into a full-blown riot. There is arson. There is police helicopters with spotlights circling the house. It's awesome because I think we've all fantasized and dreamed about having a party of that caliber, but none of us had enough friends or knew enough people to pull it off. Somehow, some way, this guy knew a few hundred people and proceeded to burn down the whole fucking neighborhood. It's great. It's not a horror movie, but we are talking about found footage, and it just turns out that most found footage movies are horror. But if you want a movie that's not, and it's just about the exploits of a bunch of teenagers trying to get themselves some, and they get themselves some and more in Project X. All right, let's move on.
Horror in the high desert. Now,
I'm glad I told you about this one.
this one was really good. It almost reminds me, if I can figure out the name of the creepypasta, but it really reminds me, or more so not creepypasta, but kind of unsolved mystery, kind of mystery, or missing 411.
I love that stuff, man.
But about a guy who finds something out, and it's literally probably this. It's not quite the same exact story, but a man who's a hiker, just like the main character in this movie. He hikes a lot, and he finds like a mine or something, and it's this whole kind of conspiracy cover up because when he goes out there to go look for it again, he goes missing, as if like he was trying to uncover some kind of government facility. He saw something he shouldn't have, and Mothman's IRS clientele got his ass out there in the Mojave Desert.
Yeah, that's what happened. You know the director's intent. That's what they were gunning for.
But this particular one is about a man who loves hiking, loves the outdoors, and it's kind of sad. Like overall, I think it's pretty sad because it's this guy who just loves trains and hiking and providing survival tips on his YouTube channel. He's a very wholesome guy. And he goes out, one of his trips, he goes out there and sees a cabin who it just gave him real bad vibes, really bad vibes. And he comes home and tells everybody about it, and nobody believes him. He didn't take any photos, he didn't videotape it. But then he goes out there and he's never seen again. only through this documentary style film we get to see the footage that was recovered that was his final moments alive, and the twist, not so much the twist but the horror at the end of the movie, I would say is really, really good. And I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to spoil the end of this one.
I actually don't want to talk about the movie itself. I kind of want to keep these short and brief. And for definitely a movie like this, going blind, really going blind. And it's not a movie I feel.
That's what I did with all these.
Yeah, except me. Except me.
Yeah.
I just went guns ablazing. I do want to talk about the surrounding event because almost like earlier when I was talking about the Followed movie about Elisa Lam and her disappearance. Of course, in the movie, her name is Megan Kim, but Elisa Lam's her real life name. I forgot to say that. This one's based off Kenny Veach, who I remember hearing about years ago when I was following these 411 cases more frequently. But Kenny Veach was a hiker in Nevada who he was almost like Gary from the movie Horror in the High Desert. They're practically
talking about the same story.
They're practically the same guy.
Yeah.
Now I can't attest whether Kenny Veach had a lisp like Gary does. I don't even know if that's a real thing or if he was just acting, but added a lot of character to him, honestly.
Oh, yeah,
the way
he's
just a sweet, innocent guy,
yeah.
which is rare in these kind of movies where you really feel for the victim. But Kenny Veach was, again, a real-life guy who went hiking all the time, he was like a survivalist, he's always outdoors. And so it's more remarkable when someone like that goes missing because it's like, how does someone who knows this terrain so well just disappear without a single trace? And what's more interesting about Kenny is that he reportedly saw a cave shaped like an M that when he got near it, vibrated.
That's the story. That's the one talking about. Yeah,
where the cave was vibrating, and I can't remember in Horror of the High Desert if they mentioned some like underground facility, but in the Kenny Veach story, a lot of people online were just, you know how they are. They take everything from 0 to 100. Everything's a government conspiracy with these guys. So like it's an underground facility. They have aliens, or I've seen so many different theories. But he was obsessed with this M-shaped cave, and he kept telling people it was real, and no one was believing them. To the point where he was like, "I'm going to prove it to the world that there's this M-shaped cave vibrating out in the desert," and the next time he goes out there to look for it, he videotapes it. It's a real life like found footage. He videotapes himself going out there, and he never finds it. And then eventually he stops updating, he stops posting, and he just is gone. And it's made creepier by the fact that not just was he updating people frequently and telling people about what he was going to do, the actual story of the cave is so mysterious in its own right. So the fact that that's part of the story makes it even weirder because we don't know if there's a connection because no one's ever found that cave. People think they have ideas, but if he found that cave again, he never came back out. And I love that Horror in the High Desert takes this story and they go in a completely different direction, but it's based almost exactly on the same story, but they put their own little spin on it. We're gonna move on to Rec or Quarantine. Rec is the Spanish name for it. Quarantine.
I didn't see this one.
Yeah, Quarantine is the English version. Quarantine is the only one I saw. I hear from people, just like they say about Spanish Dracula, that the Spanish version is the best version. I can't attest to that. All I can tell you is I've seen Quarantine a number of times, and it's a newswoman who goes along with a fire crew to a hotel. A lot of these happen in hotels for some reason. We've had 2 of these take place in a hotel. They go to a hotel, and there's some activity there. And I'm not going to get into what happens, but they get trapped in there with the fire crew, and something has happened. And I mean, if you don't know, I don't want to get into it, but it's very claustrophobic in a way that a lot of these movies are. I mean, it's inherently claustrophobic by the nature that it's found footage. You're like boots on the ground, you're seeing it from their perspective, and you feel stuck with them in the horror of the moment. But this is exacerbated by the fact that you're in a hotel and the police on the outside don't want you to get out. Because if you get out, what's in there will get out too. And so you're stuck in here. And the whole thing is filmed from this news reporter and the cameraman filming the what's going on inside this hotel. That's all I want to say about it.
For this next one, I'm gonna let it be all the Big Sauce Daddy, because Cloverfield, if you didn't know, is a found footage kaiju film.
There's not many of those around.
And if you didn't know, Chandler here is probably the biggest kaiju fan I know.
Yeah, I fucking love this movie. This movie's awesome.
So take it away.
Again, I kind of don't want to just retell these movies. I just want to tell you my thoughts on it. And being a big kaiju fan, if you want a found footage kaiju fix, this is it.
It's good. It's really good.
It's the only place you're gonna get it. And the fact that, I mean, name a kaiju movie that's scary. Name one that's like actually frightening. I would say Godzilla 2014. You haven't seen it. I would say that was get some good moments. But can you name one that's like, ooh, that's scary?
The recreation of the spider pit in Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Very good, but it's not kaijus. Kong is a kaiju, technically, and even then you could debate if he's a kaiju because kaiju is a Japanese word, and these are bugs. Bugs are scary. I'm fucking terrified of giant bugs. I am more scared of giant ants than regular ants.
We gotta watch them.
They're making another. They're we'll worry about that later. I know they're making a remake of them, but I can't remember who's directing it. Is it Matt Reeves? No, Matt Reeves directed Cloverfield.
Yeah,
and
I love it. Its story is really good. Its monster is really good, and there's particular scenes that, for the first time in a while, I actually was like, I felt scared. You know, there's just one, like, it's only one scene, but like the concept of this particular thing happening, not only is this a big monster is bad, but this particular scene shows that, oh no, the kaiju might be a big problem, but you got even bigger problems going on the ground. And that particular scene, I'm not gonna describe it, but you'll see it. It's really good, and it was the first time I was actually like, damn, that's scary. And the characters, you love the characters, except for that one guy that's in the first Deadpool movie that did those bad things.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, it's all right. It's not all right, but it's all right. The film itself is good. I highly recommend it. And I'm sorry for interrupting, so please.
Oh no, you're fine. It's an apocalyptic style movie, and it's also claustrophobic because instead of using the four walls of a room or the woods, you're stuck in the city, and not just any city. It's New York, which it's Manhattan. You're on an island connected by bridges, and what happens when you remove the bridges? You're stuck. You're stuck. And the movie really plays on this feeling of isolation. It's amazing how, and I think the new Scream movie is going to play on this too. The whole idea that you're surrounded by so many people and yet you've never been more alone. No one's here no one's going to save you. Everyone is just as desperate and confused as you are. And it's so unique. There's not another movie that feels like Cloverfield. Even the Cloverfield sequels have nothing to do with it because they knew it was lightning in the bottle and they weren't going to be able to do it again.
The second one is good.
It's good. It has, but it's not. It has nothing to do with it.
I didn't see the third one.
And there's a lot of cool details about Cloverfield, and this might be a spoiler, so plug your ears. But did you notice at the very end, the last tape, if you pay really close attention. You want to talk about attention to detail? One of the last few seconds of the movie when they're on the Ferris wheel, you see something fall from the sky.
I didn't notice that.
It's a satellite. A satellite falls from the sky, and it's implied that that's where it comes down on.
What do you mean?
It's an alien.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
When you say satellite, I was thinking something else, but I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. I'll rewatch it this week.
It is almost impossible to see, but I've seen the movie so many times. I eventually picked up on it, and I looked online, and then like there's edits where people are zooming in on it, and you can tell it's a satellite falling from space. And at the time, I thought it implied that the satellite woke up what was in the ocean. Matt Reeves confirmed a few days ago that it is an alien and that it's a baby, and that it's actually not evil. It is scared because everyone's shooting at it. And it's a scared little baby that wants its mother, which implies that there's another one out there that is much, much, much larger. And if you watch Cloverfield Paradox, you may actually get to see a glimpse of the mother. That's all. That's all. That's all I got to say about it. Next is Savage Land.
Savage Land.
You have at it, buddy. I am so glad I watched this, and I'm so glad you got to see it.
So, it's a documentary about a town, an entire town getting slaughtered.
It's very authentic feeling.
Yes. And it's this, the best way to describe it is an illegal immigrant from Mexico who picked up work around the town is blamed for it because he was the sole survivor of the town. And there's layers of interpreted racism towards him. Whether that it's one of those things where if you're trying to build a case about somebody who, if one side is completely convinced he did it, and there's another side that says that he didn't do it, and there's just enough evidence to make you question, maybe he didn't do it. You don't, the side that is like in their head, they are confirmed that he did it. Don't be a dick. Don't be arrogant about it. And especially just describing him as some dirty, illegal kind of person, which and it's not me being biased as I was born here, but I am Mexican. I'm not being biased about like, oh, I'm always gonna take the side of whatever. I listen to both sides, and the side that said he did it is just calling him names. That even though everybody in the town who ever spoke about him he was real quiet, he was a photographer, and he was real nice to everybody. And it's almost not to discredit the character, but in terms of how people describe them as like a gentle giant. Like he wasn't the biggest guy, but he was very quiet, took care of people, and he was really nice. He could do no wrong. And there are photographs that came to light from his camera that he took the night this event happened.
Actual proof. It cannot be disputed, except according to the sheriff, who's like, kids these days they can edit anything.
My 5-year-old nephew could edit these photos, and then they have a photographer on it that like, literally says
these are real.
These are not only are these real, but if you take them down to your forensics lab, they will confirm that these are real.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna say what were in the photos, but it's
pretty damning.
It's pretty damning and pretty cool how they piece this story together. And I was very pleasantly surprised with the delivery and how they still keep a mystery about it.
You still don't know. Just like with Blair Witch, it's like you have a mystery presented and the answer isn't fully given to you, and it's left for you to interpret and put pieces together. And the pieces are there.
Yeah,
they are there. And it being an inherently political movie, it's very hard to look at it any other way. They definitely are trying to say something about immigration, but it's not really the draw of the movie. It's there, it's on the surface, But when you really look at it,
the horror is really good. Especially the last few photographs are so sad, and it really hammers in the idea that he was just trying to help.
every second of the way, he was trying to be the good guy.
And I think the photographer said it best. You only put yourself in danger when you stop being a photographer and you actually get involved to try to save somebody. Because the way that the danger was shown, it was everywhere. Oh my god.
Surrounded.
Surrounded.
It's amazing he got out of there alive.
Yes. And it shows credence to the idea that he was a photographer photographing everything or photographing everything. And the moment he stopped taking photos is when he was in danger, which maybe you can interpret it a particular way or this, that, or the other, but I was very happy with this one. This one, House October Built, Troll Hunters, and the next one. The next one is probably like, it's so hard to pick, but this next one is really good. But overall, Savage Land, highly recommended. Tubi, check it out. It's really good. Like we said, it's a documentary style film, and it's shot very well, as if it was one of those Netflix documentaries.
It felt real, which is kind of rare in mockumentary style films to have it actually feel like something you would see on Dateline or show up on the news. It feels like that. And while it's a movie that has something to say, the actual horror of it is very well executed.
Go check it out.
Yeah, moving on.
Check it out.
The Borderlands, or otherwise known as The Final Prayer.
This
also on
was
Tubi.
So fun.
Who would have thought that the priest would be the most down to earth, relatable guys?
God,
Vatican priest.
So fun. This was one of the most fun movies I've seen in a long time.
Wow.
Because it's so just fluid. It's so organic.
The character relationships and the way they talk to each other.
Oh my god, the script is so good.
People give the Scottish guy a lot of shit for some reason.
I like him.
I don't know what his problem is. I don't know.
Man, I thought you were playing with me originally when you said, yeah, check out the Borderlands. I'm like, okay. A freaking kayak movie showed up. And I'm like, are you sure it's called the Borderlands? You're like, yeah. And I look it up. In America, it's called The Final Prayer, but everywhere else it's called The Borderlands.
How did I see the European version? I never saw it released as Final Prayer.
Final Prayer is about a team sent by the Vatican to investigate quote unquote miracles, whether it's possession, demonic stuff, or anything of the like that resorts to religious stuff.
Yeah.
Important stuff. And to either see that it is a miracle or not. And the team that they have there is so fun. People have a problem with the Scottish guy. I have a problem with Mark.
Really?
Yes. I think he's too snarky.
Yeah.
I think
that's a different dynamic to it.
Yeah, I think Mark is the priest that is the I don't know the terms. It's like a higher priest, but not quite like a pope or a bishop, cordial or something.
Cardinal.
I think he's a cardinal. Or he's a father. I know that they call him Father Mark or something. Father Mark, you'll learn throughout. He doesn't show up for the first 2-3 days, but the dialogue of the first 2 days of these two guys just broing it out.
Very real, man.
It's very real. It's just the bros, man. And the
brothers in Christ. Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, you'll have to see.
You'll see.
And it follows this. Once when Mark shows up eventually, they are sent there to investigate a miracle at this old church. And things happen, whether or not they're actually miracles or not. Um, I would say wholeheartedly that this is one you should check out. If there's anyone on this list,
That's your highest recommendation.
yes, I would say this is the highest recommendation considering it's got good scares. The script is written very well. The characters are funny, and the ending is really good. Really good.
Not gonna get into it.
I wasn't expecting it, but we're not gonna get into it.
Oh, the movie is definitely guiding you toward a certain direction, especially with the religious imagery. It wants you to think it's one thing, and then just to completely 180 it. It'd be like, yeah, we're not going to say any more about it.
Yeah, I don't want this to come off as like we're blue balling you about these movies, but we really want people to go check out these movies.
You're blue balling yourself if you don't.
Yeah, I think we shouldn't be the number one source
for anything,
but
especially
our tastes in music and films and monsters. We might have some good takes. We know by now. I think I got. Everybody says that I got the hottest takes in town, man.
Oh yeah,
but you should check out Final Prayer.
Or Borderlands if you're across the pond.
Yeah,
but it's like there's some movies on this list that I think if you're listening to this podcast, you've probably already seen or know something about. This is one of those movies I feel like can completely fly under someone's radar. And you're missing a terrific experience.
You're missing out, man. You are missing out.
Yeah, so I'm glad I added it to the list because this is one of those movies you may just never hear of. Even in found footage circles, people may not discuss this movie. So I'm glad it's on here and that we are able to talk about it and give it such high praise. As above, so below.
I didn't see this one. This is definitely one that I've been wanting to see since I saw the trailer.
You want my first hot take? Probably this entire show?
Go for it.
Overhyped.
Really?
Yeah.
Explain. Go in depth on this one if you can.
Remember how I was saying how like haunted houses and stuff are an untapped market within this genre?
Mm-hmm.
Probably more so, the Paris catacombs are such a great source of horror and claustrophobia. That's one thing a lot of these movies have, especially Final Prayer towards the end. But this one, again, it's very claustrophobic. It's about a group of filmmakers who go and document the Paris catacombs. And what do you think? Is that strong? Is that my glass? Are you drinking mine? This is my moonshine. Get your grubby little mitts off my moon. You just finished an entire jar. Drink your Fosters.
It's done.
You drink the Fosters?
Give me your Fosters.
Get the hell away from my Fosters, man. Stay away.
Okay.
All right. Back on track. This guy's over here drinking all my alcohol. Lord have mercy. Give me the moonshine. Give me the mate.
I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna make my own.
Whatever. As above, so below. I personally think it's overhyped. Now, when I say that, when I use that nomenclature, I don't mean to say that it's bad. No, it's good. It's effective. It's claustrophobic. But it's in that weird period of found footage movies where they all just kind of just feel the same. Like you go to the early stuff and they're all they're trying different things. They're being very creative and unique. Like you go from Blair Witch to Cloverfield, drastically different movies. Like you couldn't have two movies in the same genre be so different. But like you get to like the mid 2010s and even movies like Hell House and House October Build, movies that we give different praise for, but they're very similar. Now crack open that as loud as you possibly can. Right into the mic if you want.
I'm not even over there. This is good podcasting right here.
It's lived in. Oh, not to derail too much, but to do exactly that. I was reading a top 10 list of sins you don't make while podcasting. We have committed every sin you could possibly make while doing a podcast.
Here.
Here to podcasting.
At least the clink wasn't that loud that time.
No, because mine was a can and yours is a mason jar. So
All
yeah,
right, I'm here. I'm present. Continue.
right. I'm not drunk, but that's also what a drunk person would say. So yeah, it's fine. I don't really have too much to say about it. It's okay, and I don't want to get into what it is because I think the Paris catacombs themselves, it's the danger, it's the threat. Regardless if there's a monster in there or not, it's the catacombs that's the main draw. That is what is going to scare you. Because if you are afraid of confined spaces, dark tunnels deep in the earth, yeah, this will give you some scares.
I think the best thing I've ever seen come from the catacombs is that footage they recovered.
Yeah, which
the
is what this
man-
is inspired by.
Really?
Yeah, the movie's inspired by that footage.
We're talking about the same one where you don't see anything the entire time,
Mhm.
and then the man's just exploring. He starts getting panicked because he doesn't know where he is, and then immediately bolts it and drops his camera.
You know what it reminds me of? The record from Minecraft, the broken one.
Yes.
But it's just like you
Tension.
have, yeah, it's just pure raw suspense because you have no idea why this person is scared. He could be scared just because he's lost, and these catacombs are like hundreds of miles long.
But why so abruptly running in the opposite direction?
What did he see that the camera did not pick up? It's so good.
Oh,
It's
Oh.
real. Like, it's a real thing that happened, and they essentially made a movie based around that.
yeah.
And to me, it's less effective when you
You-
try to explain.
You see it?
I'm not going to say whether you see it or not. I'm just going to say that
Okay.
it gives you more than what that original video does. And to me, that's kind of why I don't like it as much. And that's a personal thing. I like horror where I don't see it and I don't know what it is. It's more effective that way to me. I like a bit of subtlety.
So this next one called Troll Hunter,
Dude.
my boy is going to be talking about it because he's a big fan of this one.
Yeah.
I only really have one critique about it.
Okay.
Should have been rated R.
How's that a critique? Jaws is PG.
It should have been rated R because I think they could have done more with the actual troll violence.
Oh, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
That's my only critique of it. It's very fun. It's very funny. But we will say it's not in English. Firsthand.
It's Norwegian.
It's Norwegian, yes.
Yeah.
It's good.
Because
It's very good.
There's places like Norway and Iceland that still believe in fairies and trolls like that. It's actually in Iceland. They very still much believe in fairies and have like laws to protect them, almost like we have laws to protect Sasquatch in Georgia.
Yeah.
It's like same stuff, same energy.
So
Um,
I will say I think it's really good. Check it out. My only critique, like I said, is that it should have been rated R because I wanted more horror, more violence. But that's just my sadistic view on it. Give me your take. Tell me why you love it so much.
Well, first off, I do want to say something about your critique. I want to critique your critique. So here you go. Having blood or gore doesn't make something scary in my eyes, and I think this movie benefits from not showing a lot of the gore, because people get ripped apart, people get messed up, and it doesn't show. I know.
I want to talk
No.
about that one scene
No,
because it's
we're-
so funny how quickly it transitions.
We're not going to discuss it, but it's awesome.
It's fun. If anything, it's
a funny movie.
It's
It
funny.
has a lot of humor and lighthearted banter, and I love the Quint guy. It's like a Captain Ahab figure who hunts trolls. That's where the movie gets its name from.
I think why I want it to be more visceral in its horror is because in modern time, I don't think we really see more fantasy horror like it is with trolls. And I kind of wanted it to be that instead of kind of seeing it as, they hunt the trolls, but at the same time, they monitor them as if they're Like they're a dangerous species, but they're trying to also kind of preserve it and keep it away from the public.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
It grounds the fantasy in reality and makes it believable. To me, that helps with the horror because it feels like a real, tangible thing. It's a government conspiracy because the Norwegian government's trying to hide them.
I'm not gonna say it, but
What? What?
the ending, man, the very end of the footage that they show at the end is so good because it's so abrupt. Oh my god.
Oh yeah, it's like the guy at the end of Cabin Fever is like, "I made it! I made it!" Yeah, that's it. That's all we're gonna say. So most of these movies don't have happy endings anyway. So
Especially this one.
Yeah, but look, I think it's just a fun ride, and I love the mythology behind it because like it's not like they make up their own version of Troll. It's not like traveling down the Nilbog for the Troll series, you know. But it's just so cartoonish and silly.
We're gonna talk about it.
We're gonna talk about Troll.
Troll 2.
Well, yes, anyone. I can't even tell you what happened in Troll 1, but everyone knows that. Oh my god! We don't have any of that. This is it's a serious movie.
It's serious. It's played off very seriously.
But it's still funny.
Yeah.
Especially the whole scene where of course, like, you're not going to get too much into it, but the trolls don't like Christians.
That was so funny.
And then just to find out that one of them is Christian, they're like, "You didn't tell us the entire. We're literally hunting monsters that hate Christians."
Oh my god!
I thought that was strong.
The comment that comes next when they're at the train station.
No,
I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say it. It's so funny. It's so funny.
Yeah, just like
to have a movie that's played so seriously,
be so funny at the same time.
Yes, its comedy feels real. It feels real. It doesn't feel like it's overly scripted. It really feels like it flows, and I think that's the best form of comedy when it just comes organically.
Yeah, unlike us, where I have to like pre-plan my joke 10 minutes in advance. But I think it benefits from being foreign.
Oh yeah,
I would say the scariest movies to me are foreign films. Like I would say Japanese horror is like the scariest horror I've ever seen. But like, oh, you got something to say? You're over here like biting your tongue. You got something to say, boy?
No, I don't. But I will say, no disrespect to the Scandinavian countries,
but they're ugly.
No,
not their women.
It's funnier when they're speaking Norwegian. I think it's funny, but that's just me being look, I'm American laughing at other countries. I'm sorry, I really am, but I think it adds to it a little bit.
Oh yeah, there are languages I think as an American we find naturally funny, but it's more like
it's not like Lee Erickson Day.
Can you do an impression of SpongeBob doing?
I will not. I will not be doing it on the podcast because I'm not going to double down. That was you.
They don't sound like that though. That's the best part. They don't. Yeah, it wasn't off-putting to me that it was in Norwegian. In fact, the experience is enhanced because like the thing about horror is feeling disconnected from reality. And our reality here in America is, I know it's 2023, but most of us speak English. And so to have people not speak our language, there is a bit of a disconnect there. I think actually helps to the horror, in my eyes.
I agree with that with also Pan's Labyrinth.
Yes.
Being in Spanish.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the same thing where there's like, I relate to these as human beings, but there's also this barrier, this linguistic wall. But yeah, that's Troll Hunter. It's very fun. It's just, I don't know. I just have a really good time with it. Oh crap! I put my password in on your phone.
You okay?
Yes.
I know what the next one is.
What was the next one?
It's the last broadcast. We've talked about it
twice in each episode of the show. You would think this is our favorite fucking movie of all time.
I will say.
Okay.
It is a very competent movie.
Yeah. For what it is, it was made on a budget of $600. And I think it shows, and I also think that's what helps it.
I'm not gonna say why I think this is it, because I want more people to experience this kind of dropping the ball at like
So jarring. The ending is so jarring.
It's literally like when the Giants quarterback made a break, and this was like 2 years ago or something, and he's running down the field
More sports references.
and he just trips over himself right before he gets to the end zone. And it's like, yeah, it's cool you made it this far, but you also didn't make it. You know?
Yeah, people aren't going to remember the fact that you got that far. They're going to remember you falling.
Yeah.
That's what they're going to remember.
It really dropped the ball at the end of this movie. It's not jarring, and it's not like,
this to
oh
me.
my God, why did you do that? It's, for me personally, it's more of like, you could have just not had that ending. You could have ended it maybe 20 minutes earlier.
I think they should have ended it like a few minutes before.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that. We know the exact moment. When the reveal happens, I think the second the reveal happens, it should end. Because I think it goes on for too long. And it's very, to me, it's very abrupt and very jarring with the change in style that they present you with, to the point where it kind of takes the movie down a few notches. It's almost flawless to me. The mystery it sets up, the presentation of it. I even like the characters. Like you don't get much from them, but I like Locust Wheeler. He's my favorite. He's just like a fun-loving guy. But
what's his name?
Who?
The bald guy that was on.
Steven Offcast.
I thought he was a dick.
Yeah, and
but I think that's how it was supposed to be painted.
Also, they call him an egomaniac early in the movie, and the fact that he is one of the only people to just disappear and not reappear, and the fact that that's not presented as a bigger mystery than what it is, because like by the end of the movie, I was convinced the first time I saw it that he's in on it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not saying whether it goes in that direction or not, but you can probably tell by my tone that I did not get the desired outcome that I wanted.
No. I don't think we either did.
I don't think anyone.
We already said it before, but I wish the Jersey Devil actually showed up.
They mention it as a possibility, but the twist in the movie, the twist is very good. And I wanted to. Can we have a spoiler moment?
Yeah,
because we're at the very end. We're at the very end.
Yeah,
here.
we're at the very end. We've talked about this movie twice already on the podcast.
Go ahead. Fuck it.
We'll do it live.
I love it. I love the fact that the guy making the documentary on his own crimes. Think about it. What a better way to cover your own ass and control the narrative if you're the one controlling the facts. Because first off, the movie actually gives you answers before. Like for instance, on the IRC, when you get to see who actually sent them you should do a show on the Jersey Devil. The name is Dave, and we know at the very beginning of the movie that David is the guy making the documentary. And so we see the guy who actually presented the concept for the show for Fact or Fiction to go out and do a show on the Jersey Devil was by a guy named Dave. And in that shot, you see his face reflected in the computer monitor when he's typing it out, which is, I think it's cool. But because a lot of serial killers will go back to the site of the original crime to relive that moment. It's like a rush for them. It's so cool to me because what better way to relive your own crime to make a documentary about it?
Yeah.
And to interview people involved. And at the very end, to be able to spin it into something positive. Because like there's book deals. People are getting more traction and they're becoming celebrities and being able to bolster their career through the murders, and it's presented as almost a good thing.
It's almost funny how they're so like that these are their friends, but
they turn on them so quick.
As soon as they die, they're like, "I'm so much more successful since that man died."
Can you imagine? Could you imagine if that happened to us? Is like I think we know people who would probably say that exact same thing. It's like, God, that guy sucked. I'd never say that to his face, but ever since he died, my career has been exploding. It's honestly pretty sad, but the mystery with Jim Seward, I think we all knew that Jim Seward wasn't the guy.
No.
It's too obvious that he's a fall guy, and I really think that the whole thing with Steven, the Steven mystery is weird because like we don't know what happened to Steven, and he's not involved. He's just gone. And how does Jim die in prison? It's not explained. There's still more mysteries that don't get. For instance, they mentioned the fact that there's no metal fragments from the weapon. In almost every murder, there's some indication of what weapon was used. They have no idea what weapon was used, and the killer was ambidextrous and the same size as Jim Seward. But it's not Jim Seward. So how is David both ambidextrous and how did he use a weapon that couldn't be traced?
I want to believe that the Jersey Devil was actually killed at least Steven. I think.
Ooh, I never even considered that.
I think that watching it a second time, I really thought that because he doesn't really say much more than what the police said about, because it's like if you watch carefully, he kind of almost talks about Lucas and the other guy that he killed from like almost like, yes, he's telling you about what the police report says, but he kind of talks about it like as if he was there. If you watch, I could be pushing it, but
yeah.
I really. But when he talks about Steven, it's just scripted. What the police report says,
right?
I think that the Jersey Devil took his body, and I think that's why it's more gruesome in the sense that they said that there's no way that Steven could have been a part of it because of the amount of blood that was on the ground.
It was nothing but blood in his hat.
Yeah,
his Johnny hat. It was laying on the ground. It's like there's mystery to it that you think the movie explains to you by the end of it, but then when you rewatch it, there's just still things that don't connect. Again, how did Jim die in prison? That's just very coincidental.
That's the only thing I got. I got nothing for you.
And then with Steven, it's like, what happened? We still have no idea. And I love that theory.
I got nothing for you for Jim, but my theory about Steven is that it was actually the Jersey Devil.
But yeah, when they quit and drop the whole found footage thing, because like think about it, they're still using, it's a $600 budget movie. The cameras they're using to film the non-found footage parts are almost as low quality as the found footage parts.
Yeah.
So it takes your brain a second to adjust and realize what you're actually seeing is no longer found footage, which for a movie that started before the found footage craze is a very ballsy thing to do for an audience that still isn't accustomed to found footage to then drop that at the very end of the movie. It is jarring. It's like a punch in the fucking face or a splash of water while you're trying to sleep. It wakes you up and you're like, what? What the hell's going on? Because not just are you dropping the found footage, you're dropping it at the exact moment that David is revealed to be the killer. And so it's like two double whammies, like back to back. It's like, whoa, hold on. Slow your roll. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah. I wish we got something. Just like with Steven, obviously it might be me thinking more about it than I really didn't actually there. But like I said, with the Jersey Devil being a possibility with Steven, for me makes sense. But with Jim dying in prison, what the hell? Like it's kind of just like a note that it's like, oh yeah, by the way, rather than, ooh, he died in prison.
Too many things have to go right for David's plan to work, and it's just very weird to me that he films himself do this stuff in the documentary. Because, like, in the documentary, before it's revealed that he kills the editor that's compiling this footage, it's strange to me because he mentions the fact that when he's trying to go and recreate the event, he mentions that this is the exact road that Steven and Locust took, and Ryan Clacken took, and Jim Seward took on this trip.
Because he followed them.
Because he followed them, but he says this detail of earlier in the documentary, he says that no one knew what roads they took. They took like these unmarked, unnamed roads, and yet he knows exactly what road they took and films himself on the road saying this contradictory information. Again, he seems like too smart of a guy to make that error. And in the back seat, you can see the wrapping of where the editor is, where she is,
Right.
but it's not revealed until that like the next scene of who's in the back seat. But the fact that he's filming this and saying contradictory information is just very incriminating. And I kind of want, out of all the movies on this list, this is the one where I kind of want a sequel. We're never going to get it.
It's one of those things that it needs one, but
It
also
doesn't.
doesn't, because it's like it didn't do that great.
No.
It was good, but like in terms of like
A lot of people forget it exists.
yeah. So I don't think it's gonna get a sequel like we think.
No. I can't even tell you the people originally involved with it. I haven't read anything up on them and do any research on them. As far as I know, they're not concerned with doing a sequel. And I after this, I kind of want to look it up. I want to see what they're up to these days because I think the performances they give are suitable. They're good. They're fine.
What's stopping us from doing it?
Doing a sequel?
Yes.
Isn't in the public domain like Mickey Mouse is about? Excuse me, Steamboat Willie. Steamboat Willie is in the public domain. Like Winnie the Pooh without a red shirt.
Yeah.
And to completely go on a different tangent, conspiracy theories. That'll be the focus and the subject of the next episode. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to get to it. I really wanted to talk about Hollow Earth. I really wanted to talk about the ATF and how David Koresh, it was actually... Wait. My theory, real quick, before we end this, I do want to say that the ATF was not there for David Koresh's firearms. They were there for his tobacco and alcohol. But that's what they will not tell you. Folks,
thank you for watching. This has been Movies, Monsters, and Music.
Something like that.
We will see you next week. We update weekly, and it should be Mondays.
Mm-hmm.
We will see you next week.
Check out Foster's. What is this? Is it?
It's an Australian beer. Yes.
Australian beer. Right.
It's not a beer you'll turn down, but it's definitely a beer you'll enjoy.
It's very difficult to just swig it in one go.
Yeah.
It's when you sip. You do a little sip here, a little sip there.
Sip there.
Just like this podcast.
Thank you guys. We love you. See you next week.
Bye-bye.